Welcome to the Sens Spotlight podcast brought to you by the Sick Podcast Network. Bet the beauties with Betway and scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and download the app. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Betway is an official sponsor of the Ottawa Senators. Also, for our YouTube fans, please like and subscribe. That really helps out the show. And what a win! Ottawa, for the second game in a row, absolutely demolishes the Boston Bruins. How about them apples, as Ottawa's the Senators Twitter account said. So excited to have on Pierre McGuire from all the way out in Ireland. So he's a real one for that. So should be a fun one, and hit it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Send Spotlight.
Here's Alfredson bursts the speed, gets a shot away, scores! Daniel Alfredson ends the game in overtime and sends the Ottawa Senators to the Stanley Cup Final for the first time in franchise history.
The sickest Ottawa Senators podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And we are joined by Pierre McGuire, all the way out in Europe, of all places. Just how was your flight, and how much fun did you have watching the Sens at an ungodly hour out there?
I watched it when I got here this morning. Good to talk with you, Alex. And yeah, I knew the result when I got off the plane, but what was cool is I had a chance to get to my hotel room, watch the game, and just decipher everything that happened, including, I thought, Jake Sanderson off the charts. We talked about him the other day and the comparable, obviously, to Scotty Niedermayer. I was blown away by how good he was last night. And we'll talk about some of his magic, but I was really impressed with Ottawa. Back-to-back games with 7+ goals. Or 7 goals, I should say, winning one game 7-2 and the other one 7-1. Really impressed. And obviously, Levi Merrillainen going in there and playing really well, I thought didn't get tested a lot, but when he did, I thought he was good. I'm excited for this group because you can see there are two teams that are really starting to surge. One of them is obviously Ottawa. The other one is Montreal. Now, we'll see if Ottawa can hold up their end of the bargain tonight in Chicago, and if Montreal can hold up their end of the bargain tonight in Seattle. But still, it's fun to watch these two teams because I think long-term, the next 6 to 8 years, these are two teams that are going to be right at the top of the food chain, and they don't like each other to begin with, and it's going to be great for hockey fans between Ottawa and Montreal.
It's definitely going to be that way, and I think just the fact of the matter is it was the first time the Ottawa Senators scored 7 goals in back-to-back games since 1993. Like that, it's rare that we see that.
When they did it in '93, it wasn't against my Hartford Whaler team. Because we beat them 9 straight times, so I know it wasn't those teams.
It felt like the Ottawa Senators beat Montreal 9 straight times for a while. It was a long time, the last couple of years. Although I think Montreal got the upper hand a bit last year. But just looking at this game, I think from Travis Green's perspective, I think he's saying, okay, guys, if you play good defense, it leads to offense. If you play the right way, it will lead you to scoring goals and and feeling good about your game. But you just have to play the fundamentals right. And I thought Boston had nothing. Like, I know they scored on the first shot and it was a bad play by Zetterlund, but that was basically their only opportunity of the first period, and Boston scored. And that's, as you know, Pierre, sometimes that's the game of hockey, right? But they played just outstanding defensively, and it turned into offense.
Well, not only were they really good defensively, they frustrated Boston, and that led to all those penalties, and that leads to Ottawa going 4 for 5 on the power play. And that's exquisite. That's exquisite. I mean, that's really good hockey. And when you have a good team with talent like Ottawa has right now, you're going to get power play opportunities. And if you don't cash on them, then it's a problem. But when you start to cash on them, you start to see these big scores, 7-1, 7-2. And that's where I've always had this theory. DJ Smith and I talked about this a lot when I was in Ottawa. You got to get to 250 goals for your year. And if you get to 250, if you go look at it over the course of since the salary caps come in, you make the playoffs. There are very few teams that get to 250 goals. So that's averaging almost 3 goals a game. If you do that, you're in the playoffs. And you look at this team right now, they're doing better than that. And that's really positive for this group. Really, really positive.
What are you seeing on the power play, just specifically? Like right now, the Senators lead the league on the power play at 35%. Daniel Alfredson's a big, proponent of that. Obviously, he kind of runs that part of practice for the team. Just what's working right now?
Well, they got talent, number one. And number two, they got a guy that wears 85. He's really good. That Sanderson guy is really good, man. So I love to tell this story. When I was in Pittsburgh, we all kind of helped out with a power play. This is way back, and we were running a power play that had Joey Mullen, Mary Lemieux, Kevin Stevens, Paul Coffey, Larry Murphy, Mark Recchi. I mean, we could interchange all the time with all these guys that are in the Hall of Fame now. And then I went to Hartford, and I tried to run the same power play. And I'll never forget, after the second practice, I said to the other coaches, there's only one problem here. I don't have the same players. So when you have a guy like Jake, and when you have a guy like Timmy, and when you have, and eventually when Brady comes back, you're going to have him too. Those talented players make a big difference. And Ottawa's got way undervalued talent with a lot of their guys. Jake is just scratching the surface. We talked about this the other day. I saw it coming. And I got to ask you this one, Alex, because I think it's important. On Giroux's goal, everybody's talking about, the Amadio pass across the crease. The play isn't made there. The play's made at the Ottawa Senators defensive blue line by a left skating defenseman, Jake Sanderson, coming up the right side, who moves the puck to the inside part of the ice to Shane Pinto. If he doesn't make that play, that's going the other way, 2-on-1 and maybe 2-on-0. That's how good this guy is. I tell everybody that's watching this right now, please go watch just that highlight, because the TV networks did no justice to it all. Zero. They didn't even talk about it. Go watch that, and now you'll see what I'm talking about with Jake.
And what's so funny is there's so many offensive defensemen in the league, but with Jake Sanderson, whenever he has the puck on his stick, you feel like a security, a safety. You never feel like he's gonna make the wrong play. He'll always make the right play, and he just burns by guys. Like, it felt like he had 3 or 4 just one man exits where he just gets the puck behind his head, just flies by 3 guys, gets out. Okay, everything, crisis averted, right? Like, it's been that way. The one thing I also think he's really good at, it's a weird underrated skill, and I'm curious what you think about it, is with his speed and his skating ability, is just keeping pucks in. Sometimes there's a loose puck, like, wheels around the boards, or just it fumbles out and it's about to, cross the blue line, and he's just fast enough and tall enough and long enough with his stick to keep it in. And it was funny, we were talking to him about that, a couple journalists and last week. We were like, how are you so good at that? He's like, my athleticism. And he kind of gave a little wink. He's just, I'm an athlete, which was great. But awesome dude.
That is such a good pickup by you. So I just want to build off that. Back in probably the mid 2000s, I was asked to do a list for Sports Illustrated, who I wrote for 15 years, on defensemen that kept the puck in the offensive zone and kept it really going. So I thought of Brian Leach in my time. Thought of Brian Leach. I thought of Raymond Bourque. I thought of Christopher Pronger. I thought of Al McInnes. And I thought of one Ottawa Senator player, Wade Redden. I'm telling you right now, Wade Redden was as good or better than any of those guys I said before, keeping the puck. I'm not saying he's a better player, but keeping the puck in the offensive zone and creating second and third chances because of those keep-ins. Sanderson has the same thing. It is athleticism. It's also the ability to read the play. It's also the ability to be on your strong side a lot. Jake's a lefty who plays on the left side, same Wade kind of stuff. And I think the big thing is strong in your stick. You don't get intimidated by guys coming out to play hard on you because you're strong in your stick. So I made that list, and I'm watching Jake, and we didn't rehearse this, and I'm saying, Jake's like in that category with those other guys that I did that list. And if you look at it, Bourque's in the Hall of Fame, Leach is in the Hall of Fame, Murphy was really good at it, Pronger's in the Hall. They're all in the Hall of Fame. The only one that's not is Redden. And he was really good at it. He was as good as any of those guys at doing that.
I will say, maybe this is a Sens podcast hot take, and the team's just won 2 games, 7-1 and 7-2. But I think Jake Sanderson is destined to be a Hall of Famer. I don't know how he doesn't just become in that echelon of player at one point. And I know that's a big thing to say, but every year he gets better. Every year he gets, he adds the offense to his game. He's just He's just a marvel player, and he's the best defenseman, I think, in the league. Maybe Jacob Slavin, that's maybe the other guy that pops to mind, but he's in that company, right? He's just an unbelievable hockey player.
He's definitely in that discussion. I think Norris Trophy legitimate. I'm on the Hockey Hall of Fame selection committee. I can't say much about that. I would say this: he's definitely trending the right way. He's definitely trending.
I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
No, you're not. No, I would tell you if you're not.
Yeah.
But I won't talk much about the selection process. But what I will tell you is he's trending the right way. He's an amazing player, and he's just getting better. He's just scratching the surface. That's why the other day when I told you I see this Niedermeyer factor in his game, I wasn't messing around. And Scotty Niedermeyer, go look at it. I mean, for our younger audience in particular, there was a time from, let's say, 95 to about 2010, this guy was as good or better than anybody playing the game at that position. And that's where I think Jake Sanderson could get to. I really do.
And I think that's the thing that, I watched Niedermeyer as a kid. So, I don't feel like I was as locked in as you were, Pierre. But the one thing I remember from his game is that there was really no holes. You never felt like he was mistake prone or anything along those lines. And Jake Sanderson's very similar. When was the last time you felt like Jake Sanderson made a bad play? It feels
they all, what they all make.
No, they all make mistakes, sure, but
they're not apparent. It's maybe one every 3 games where you say, "What the heck was it?" I'll give you an example. Patrice Bergeron was as efficient as any player I've ever seen. Efficient didn't mean he was the best player. He was just really efficient. He was really tidy. I've done games on the national level where I knew the Bruins weren't going to win because Patrice was not efficient that night. Everybody has it happen to him over the course of an 82-game schedule. I remember one game in particular. He lost the draw. Then he went to play head-on-head against Kane because that was his guy. Kane walked him to the inside part of the ice, and I knew right away there was no chance Boston was winning that night because their best player got singed twice, one on the faceoff and the other time in a one-on-one coverage. So it's going to happen to Jake. It's going to happen to everybody. That's just how it works. But this guy's really special, and I love what you said about efficiency. He's so efficient.
He's so efficient. The other thing that I've really liked with Travis Green, and we talked about kind of Nick Cousins being on the first line, I with Tim Stutzle and Drake Batherson, I think Tim Stutzle and Drake Batherson, those two are destined to play together. I think they just make too much sense together where Batherson has the speed and the skill to match Stutzle's game, he has a bit of that, not Crosby or McDavid, but he's so fast that you have to keep up with him, right? And I think they finally have a guy on his right wing where Batherson can do that and has the skill. And Batherson has 4 goals in his last 2 games. I think 6 points in his last 2 games. He's been red hot, and I think a part of that is because Travis Green put him alongside Tim Stutzle.
I think we talked about what had to happen with Brady being out. One was Timmy had to elevate, and he's starting to now. And the other one was Drake really. He was just coming back, by the way. Drake really had to elevate, and he has, which is really good. I just have one question for you because I noticed it watching the game. When did Stutzle change his tape job on his stick?
So funny. After the game, we're talking to him, and Claire Hanna of TSN asked him about it. And he said, I knew this was coming, the question. And he said, I fumbled the puck 10 times, and Alfie for a while has been pressuring me to change my stick job. So I changed it in the third period, and then he got 2 goals. And he said, I'm going to keep the same stick job or tape job. Sorry. So it looks like he found his magic wand, and it looks like it's going to work for a while. And, credit to Alfie for making that change. Cause I have noticed, to be fair, Stutzle, and I was going to try to ask him in practice, he had been practicing for moments in practice with a different tape job. So I think it was coming for a while, but it came out and it worked.
It reminded me of in 1991, the Pittsburgh Penguins played the Minnesota North Stars in Game 1 in Pittsburgh. They lost that game and they got crushed in faceoffs. But one of the other things is some of their better players were falling down, and one of them, I won't give you his name in particular, really was falling down. So the head coach of the team comes up to me and goes, "What's wrong with your pony?" And I'm not going to tell you the player's name. And I said, "I don't know, but he fell down a lot." He goes, "Why don't you go ask him?" So I said, "Hey, do you have edge problems?" He goes, "No, I got a new pair of skates, and they felt good in practice, so I wore them." So in game one of a Stanley Cup final, this guy wore a brand new pair of skates and he kept falling down. So I said very politely, I said, we're not going to put this public. But I said, just please go back to your old skates. He goes, yeah, don't worry, I'm on it. I'm going back.
That's amazing.
So I didn't know about the Alfredson part that you just shared with me, but I could see how a coach would say, hey, you're having a tough time with the puck. Like, change something up here, whether it's a curve of your stick, the tape job on your stick, the length of your stick, whatever. Change something up. And so I'm
he has a
glad that
very
Alfie did that. That's good.
and he has a very particular tape job where it's very much like it's a thin layer at the bottom. Like it's not a
Yes.
normal kind of tape job. And it's sometimes you feel like he doesn't hold on to pucks as smoothly as other players. So and it looked pretty good in the third period. So whatever works, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's always cool to see Alfie kind of impose his wisdom on the players. Like if you talk to the players in the room and Alfie comes up, like they start smiling. They have these big wide grins and they just love him and they clearly learn a lot from being around him, which is really cool to see.
He's a special, obviously, player and a Hall of Fame player at that. But, I was there when he was Rookie of the Year in Ottawa. And I can tell you, that kid worked as hard as anybody I've ever seen. And he was addicted to the game. He wanted to be great. And you got to give a lot of credit back then to the Ottawa Senators scouts led by the late John Ferguson Sr., Randy Sexton, Ray Shiro. They were all part of that. Moose DuPont. Those guys, they knew how good Daniel had. It's like the late Pavel Dimitra, the same kind of thing. They guys drafted some really good players in Ottawa, and Daniel obviously excessive, really good. But I can tell you, I remember working with Daniel, and just you knew this guy was going to be special because it's just he was focused, he was driven, and he wasn't going to let his guard down. He never was. It was really special, really special.
He's the most competitive person from all accounts. Don't ever play tennis, pickleball, paddle, any sport with him. He will
golf. Trust me,
golf.
I've seen him golf.
He's good. The other thing that I thought was interesting was just finally Fabian Zetterlund scored a goal. He
Yes.
could tell he got the monkey off his back. He basically had that celebration when he scored too. How important do you think that will be for a guy like Zetterlund, who really played well, I thought, last night and has been turning in the right direction, it seems like, the past couple of games?
I thought that was the best game he's played as an Ottawa Senator last night. I know he had the turnover on the geeky goal. I know that, like everybody else does. But I thought he was better. I thought he was more consistent. I thought he made harder plays. The goal that he scores, it's ripped. That thing's ripped. And it's kind of a rolling puck, too. That's not an easy thing to do. So there was a lot to like there. He's got to just keep taking another step up the ladder in order for him to really pay back the investment that's been made on him. But if he can do that, that's found money for Ottawa. That's good. That's going to be really important for them.
For sure. Yeah. It feels like everything, as you said, like in the intro of the show, like everything just coming together for this team where the PK is working, the power play is humming. Obviously, it's going to come down to earth a little bit. Merlainen looked good. Like
Yeah.
it just feels like they're not just a good team, they're turning into a really good team. And then obviously when number 7 comes back into the lineup, then you really get to see where you're at as a team. But if they win tonight in Chicago, you win against Calgary, you're 7-4-1 without your captain, and you're on a 4 or 5 game winning streak. Like things have really turned around in Ottawa in a week, and that's how much do you think that can really turn the season, kind of getting over that early season adversity for this team?
I think, Alex, the season turned when Travis Green wasn't Mr. Nice Guy after the Islander loss. I mean that. Todd McClellan did the same thing after the first game in Detroit when they got pummeled by Montreal. And he says, you know what? I'm tired of these guys saying, oh, we'll get them the next time. I'm tired of that. The next time's now. And I think what Travis did is he created a standard internally where the guy said, okay, no more Mr. Nice Guy. We got to buck up here because we don't have our captain. And this thing could go south in a hurry because this is probably the softest part of our schedule. And so to their credit, they all elevated, whether it was Drake elevating, whether it was Jake elevating, whether it was Timmy elevating, whether it was Shane elevating in different roles, Ridley Gregg, who we talked about, he needs more ice time. He's elevating clearly in a lot of different facets. How about Nick Cousins? Nick Cousins shouldn't be playing in your top 6, but because of need, he is. And you know what? He's thriving right now. He can't do that. Trust me. I like the player. He just can't do that the whole year.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. But he's doing it right now, and that's what you want. I still think there's a void on the right side of the D. I think eventually that gets addressed. Tommy's playing better. Shabbat's playing a lot better, way more consistent. And I don't see any real dead areas there where you say, "Oh boy, they're in trouble." I just don't see that. I don't see it.
No, that was the one thing coming into the season where I felt Ottawa's depth, especially in the forward group, but defense to a lesser extent. But their forward group is really deep, right? And I think you're seeing bearing the fruits of that right now with this team. Is you're missing your captain, and you're fine. Like Nick Cousins, I mean, again, I don't know if he's gonna score a goal a game on the first line as a left winger, but they have like he's a serviceable, good NHL player, and you can put him on the top line, and he can do a good enough job for a couple games, right? You have Dylan Cousins, who has a bigger role now. He's producing. Drake Batherson takes another step. You see the Pinto, Amadio, Giroux line. Like that's a really good third line. Like they're just you can just see the foundation of what Staios has kind of built in terms of bringing other guys into the fold. And I think the one interesting thing is that you touched on Shabbat turning his game around, I think is such an important thing for this team because Sanderson's elite. The bottom pair with Clevin and Manpal has been great. But if you have Shabbat and Jensen rolling, you're really playing like with house money and you're playing, I think you're in a really good spot.
Yeah, no, we agree. I'm just curious, does Spence get back in the lineup anytime soon?
I don't think so.
What
do you think of
with the back-to-back? I don't know. And then you got Calgary coming. I just don't know with a little bit of travel because it's hard to cross the border back and forth and back-to-back days. So I mean, you maybe think, but I don't know. I think it's a little early to give up on the kid. That's all I'm saying.
what would you do if you're Green with Spence?
Probably play him tonight against Chicago. I don't think they'll do that, but I'd probably do that just because Chicago is still a young team. He's not going to get overwhelmed by them. Their better forwards are smaller. They're not bigger. Their defense is huge, though. They got big defense. They do. Their defense is big. But I'd probably play him tonight. But you don't want to. But I get what Travis is doing. I totally support this. By the way, he's addressing a winning lineup, and he wants to keep a winning lineup, which I think is smart. But I also think he can tweak it a little bit. He's probably not in that frame of mind right now, which is fine. He's got these guys back on track. And I think a big part of it is because of what he did after the Islander game.
Yeah, no, for sure. I also think if you look at the analytics, like I asked Green about like how good Clevin and Manpalo have been and why they're so effective as a third pair. And basically, he didn't say it maybe this directly, but said, hey, they're big, fast, and mean, and they can skate, right? And on your bottom pair against checkers that are typically bigger and faster, that's who you want to have out there rather than Jordan Spence. I still like Jordan Spence more as a player than Nicholas Manpalo, but that pairing's been really good. I think, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I will say, as soon as they have a loss, I think that's when you start to think, okay, and let's say they lose, knock on wood, they don't lose to Chicago tonight, but maybe Spencer Knight's been unreal. You lose that game. Does Jordan Spence come in against Calgary?
Yeah, he could. I don't see that being an issue. I really don't. This team's good enough right now. Now, again, I think it's about consistency, and they're starting to figure that out. All the guys are accepting their roles. It's interesting how the roles have all of a sudden been realized. Drake knows he needs to score. Timmy knows he needs to make plays and finish plays off. Jake knows he needs to be a one-man breakout. Tommy knows he needs to be better defensively and more consistent. He is being that. Zuby needs to be physical and smart without taking penalties. I think he's starting to do that. So that everybody's kind of getting their role. Shane, after that really scintillating, hot offensive start, he's kind of getting back into the checker mode, which is good. That's where he belongs. That's his thing. So I think I like where everybody knows their role, and it's getting more and more clear to everybody, and they're thriving in their roles, which is really important.
How much credit do you think Green takes just for this turnaround? Like you kind of
So
mentioned it after the whippersnapper after
yeah,
the Islanders game.
I think the whole staff deserves credit because you know what? They could have sat back in their penalty kill scheme, that dumb diamond that they played, and playing passive resistance. I'd be like, are you kidding me? At least they recognize they had to change a little bit and get more aggressive. They've done that. I think they've done some subtle changes on their power play, which has obviously been really fruitful for them. And obviously they have some talent too. Power play had to change a lot when Brady went down too. I think, that's one force you have to identify that not having him changed a lot. They had to change some of the lines up, which I think they've done. So those are all coaching decisions. I think Travis and Daniel deserve a lot of credit. Mike Yeo deserves some credit. Nolan Baumgartner, who was in charge of their PK, you can clearly see they said to him, "Hey, dude, we got to make this more aggressive," and they
Yeah.
have, and so it's all getting better. I think the coaches should be proud of what they've done so far.
What do you think as like a former coach? Like Green loves to mix and match his lines. And I always find that an interesting conundrum of how much do you want a lot of continuity and how much do you want to try new things just because sometimes things aren't working and it's better to change it up and maybe find a different solution.
Sometimes you don't want players to get comfy, cozy. So I know some of Travis's mentors when he was a player. Al Larber would be one. The late Pat Quinn would be another one. Those guys are from the Bowman school of hard knocks, and that is never let a player get comfortable or never let them get cozy. Because if you do, they're not going to perform to the level you want. So they're usually those coaches play tandems rather than threesomes. And so if you look, there'll always be two guys on the same line, and they'll always rotate a third guy. It doesn't mean it happens all the time, but good portions of it. And so I have no problem. I took that
Yeah.
from Scotty. I did that a lot. I only had one line that always played together, the CVS line, Castle, Sanderson, and Verbeek. And they were
Hmm.
really good. They were really, really good for me. Really good for me. The only thing we didn't do is we didn't get them an endorsement from CVS drugstores. We should have.
That's funny that you mentioned that because Green's openly mentioned how he likes the tandems, right? So you hit it on the nail there. Like you clearly, I mean, obviously you clearly know, but yeah, he loves the Pinto Giroux right now as a tandem, right? He likes the Cousins or uh Dylan Cousins, sorry,
Yeah.
David Perron, right? Obviously,
Mhm.
when Brady's in, he likes Brady Stutzle and then figure out the right wing, right? So there's those kind of tandems that he likes, but I do like that he's split up uh again, Dylan and Drake Batherson up. I didn't like that tandem, and he's
Yeah.
kept it a lot for a long time. I just think defensively they're not great together. Breaks them up, and guess what? Both are flourishing. So I think I really admire a coach that doesn't just stick to his kind of what's worked for him all the time. Like he tries to do new things and try to change things up, especially when you're not winning. If you're winning, I don't blame a coach for change or for
Right.
keeping the same thing. But when you're losing, so I think the coaching staff deserves a lot of credit. Just maybe last one, just on Maryline, he obviously got pumped in the first game of the season. They sent him down to the AHL. How much of a confidence boost do you think this can be for a guy who was excellent last year in Ottawa?
Huge. David Bell and his staff down in Belleville do a really good job cultivating players. They really do. Doesn't mean they're going to win a lot of games, but they're going to make players better. I've watched David work for a long time. I'm a huge fan, and I know the people that are around him, and they're good people. So I think it helps Levi a lot, or Levy. The one thing I'd say about him is I was a huge fan when I was in Ottawa and we had just taken him, and I watched him play that one year, and you could see there was a gift there. It was a matter of how long was it going to take. And I think now they're starting to figure out what they need to do to push his button to get him to get to where he needs to be. Justin Peters, I can say this with pure confidence because I've been around a lot of goalie coaches. He's really good at his job. Justin
Hmm.
Peters is really, really good at his job. I know nobody pays attention to who the goalie coach is, but I'm just telling you, I worked with this guy. I spent a lot of time with him. He's really good at his job. I'll tell you that with
Hmm.
confidence.
What do you think of is it typical, because I haven't been around enough teams, but after every game, Peters will, like, come down, go in the locker room, and talk to the goalie after games. Is that, like, a common thing, or is that, atypical? I don't know. I'm just curious.
Every team and every guy's different. Like, I won't go over all the names, but there's some guys you go near them after a game, especially if they lost, they don't want to see you. They might whack you with a stick. And there are other guys that want constant, consistent feedback, and they want to see it on tape. So everybody's different. And I think that's one of the gifts of a goalie coach, is recognizing this is the persona of the goalie. He needs reinforcement or he doesn't, or he needs a kick in the butt or he doesn't, or he needs videotape or he doesn't. You got to figure out, every guy's different. But I do think Justin's, again, I've seen him at work and I'm a big fan. I think the biggest thing is he knows how to make guys better, because he knows the road he had to take to get to the NHL.
Yeah.
And so he knows what that road is like, and he knows what you have to do to get to the top of that road and survive.
Interesting. I mean, obviously you don't want to look at the goalie numbers so far this season, but last year, in his first full year in charge of the goalies, they were, I think, 11th or 10th or something in the top 10-ish.
They're in the top 12, I think.
Yeah, right. In save percentage, and the year prior, they were bottom. They were last. So I think he deserves a lot of credit. Obviously, you bring in all market talented goalie, that kind of helps too, of course. But at the end of the day, he deserves some credit, and hopefully they can go from whatever they are now, like second last in save percentage, to a bit higher. But Pierre, before I let you go, anything you just maybe thinking about heading into the game against Chicago tonight?
Tonight's not a fancy game for them. Chicago's going to play fancy. Ottawa doesn't need to play fancy. Ottawa needs to play a 4-line game tonight. They need to get pucks in deep. They got to attack. That's a good defense. It's a big defense, but it's a young defense. And so if you confuse them in terms of coverage situations, you can expose them. And you talked about Spencer Knight, Alex. You're spot on. He's got a really good start. But part of why he's had a good start, they do have breakdowns. So if you can do that, it doesn't mean he's going to be elite every night. That's what kind of Ottawa has to do. Play a meat and potatoes, ground and pound, smart game. Don't let their skill guys get going. Make their skill guys defend rather than attack. Make Guard defend. Make Frankie Nazar defend. Get the puck. Make Ryan Donato defend. Get the puck in deep and make their guys defend. Let's see if they can hold up.
I also think just the special teams. Ottawa seems to be just on a heater on both ends. I think they're 8 for 8 on the PK, and obviously they scored 4 out of 5 and 3 out of 4 against Washington. So what's that? 7 out of 9, which is, that's probably not going to sustain itself. But I think if they can have a good special teams night, that'll help, especially on the second night of a back-to-back, when you're feeling the legs a little bit, just like playing smart hockey. But Pierre, thanks so much for taking the time, especially in Europe. So we really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Can't wait. Thanks a lot, Alex. Appreciate it. Take care.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Sens Spotlight on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.